Charles Bridge, Prague's most famous landmark. Only the early birds among you will ever get to see it this empty. It's 7 a.m. and I've managed to beat the crowds. The bridge, the Vltava River, the spires, now seems to be the perfect time to take it all in. The vibe is very special.
Prague is one of the most visited cities in all of Europe, and that's not really surprising if you consider that it's been a political and cultural center in Europe since the Middle Ages. So what's left of all of that today? We're about to find out.
Join me in Prague for a day. You'll get to know famous author Franz Kafka. Learn more about Bohemian dumplings, a Prague classic. And we'll explore the Vltava, the city's main artery. Prague is the capital of the Czech Republic and home to some 1.3 million people. Since it's my first time in town, I'm getting help from a local. At Café Slavia, I'm meeting actor and tour guide Christian Majstrik. Before we hit the town, I want to learn some basic Czech skills.
I mean, I would like to be able to be polite a bit.
So let's start with hello.
Yes.
So
hello.
That's quite funny because hello, if you say hello, it's like ahoy, but it's a little bit more familiar. So when you come to the shop and you say like ahoy, it's not the best thing you can do.
So
we say dobrý den, like guten tag you say, right? Mm-hmm. So guten tag is dobrý den. Dobrý den.
Dobrý den.
Almost perfect.
Okay. Dobrý den.
Dobrý den.
Dobrý.
Then you
Dobrý den.
Dobrý den. Then you should probably know how to say goodbye.
Yes.
Naschledanou.
I will never say goodbye.
Yeah.
I will have to stay here forever.
That's a good idea as well. We love people like you.
All right. Naschledanou.
Naschledanou. Yeah.
Is there not a more informal way of saying that, like ahoy?
I was just thinking díky, which brings us to díky.
Díky.
Because if you want to say like the verb děkuji, it's really official, really polite. You can say děkuju, but děkuji is really hard. So say díky, which is like thanks. Díky is perfectly okay.
Díky is good. That rolls off the tongue nicely.
Yeah, but before you say díky, you should say like please or something like bitte.
Yes.
So it's prosím.
Prosím.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And I have a good news for you because we use prosím because we are really influenced by Germans for so many centuries. So we use it in the same case as you do. So when you don't understand, like wie bitte, so prosím.
Oh yeah, prosím.
When you say like you welcome, prosím. And as well, prosím, could you? Yeah? So it's a really useful word.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm. And it's easy to remember compared to all the other ones I use. Okay. Prosím.
Perfect.
Christian tells me that Prague is full of history. The Gallus market, for example, has been around since the 13th century. It's remarkable how well maintained the old town is. In 1992, Prague city center was declared a UNESCO World Heritage Site. Our first stop is the Old Town Square, in front of the Old Town Hall. A ticket for the tower costs 250 Czech crowns. Yep, Prague is part of the EU, but not the Eurozone. That's about 10 euros. At 41 meters, you'll have the city at your feet.
Why is Prague then called the Golden City?
I think it's in the time that they started to use it. Prague was one of the capitals of seat place of the Holy Roman Empire for the emperor, but we don't use it anymore. Actually, we locals don't use it as much. We use we use the expression "mother of 100 spires." You know, because if you look from the window, from the bars, you can see there are spires everywhere. And actually, I would say there's even more, definitely, than 100 of them.
At the top of every hour, tourists gather in front of the astronomical clock on the town hall facade to witness a little play. But the true highlight is the clock itself. It was built in 1410, a Gothic masterpiece, but even by today's standard, a bit hard to read.
Where the sun is, there's a golden hand. Can you see it?
Yeah.
And the golden hand is pointing down of numbers, but the Roman golden numbers in a blue side.
It's at 3, and it's not 3, it's 4.
So if you look at that, it's like, let's say this is 12, this is 1, so it's like 12, 12:10, 12:30, so it's not really precise.
Okay.
You know?
Yeah.
So only one hand. But the sun, if you look, this is the hand, and here's the sun sun moves on the axis.
Yeah.
So in summer, on a summer solstice, it's as further from the center as possible, and on a winter solstice, as close to the center as possible. And it's interesting because you see the blue part, the red part, and the black part. Can you see? So when the sun is in the blue one, it's still the day. Then it gets to the sunset. Then there's a night, and then there's the sunrise and the day.
Yeah.
And you can see when it's in a closer center.
Yeah.
It's in winter, so it gets earlier dark.
Yeah.
And then in summer, it's later. Maybe about the statues really quickly. On the bottom, you have the historian, you have the Archangel Michael, you have the astrologist, and you have the philosopher.
Yeah.
Over there on the top, you have the guy with the mirror, which represents vanity.
Yeah.
Then you have the guy which is a greeter. You know, I don't know if you want to talk about that, but in medieval time, Jewish people were the only thing they were allowed to do by good Christians were banking. They were not allowed to do anything out of the ghetto, except they were good doctors. Then we needed them, so we allowed them nicely to leave the ghetto. But what I'm trying to say is, this guy is representing greeter, and he's done like a Jewish. So it's not really politically correct. And then there's the skeleton. The skeleton rings the bell. Time goes by. Time goes by.
Skeleton is death. It's quite remarkable that death would be depicted in such a way in that time, isn't it?
Whatever you do, the message is, remember that in the end is the death. So just like try to fill the life, fulfill life as much as you can do that.
That's really beautiful.
This square is a must for every Prague visitor. As you can see, we're not alone. Where are you from?
We're from Scotland.
From Mexico.
Hong Kong. From Austin, Texas.
From Cyprus.
What brings you to Prague? Why Prague?
Beautiful sense. And food.
I think wandering about, actually, to just get the atmosphere is the kind of thing that we like to do. And just sort of soak it all in. It's a museum in itself.
Oh, it's wonderful. I've always heard Prague was such a beautiful city, and it is.
It's true what you hear about Prague's arts and culture. There was a piano player in the metro station and music on the bridge.
We are interesting for the buildings, we are interesting for the structure of the town.
And the food.
And the food, of course.
Food. Good point. Time for a little snack. Christian takes me to try a Czech classic with a modern twist.
These are like slightly still traditional. It's just like Czech fast food. So you're running, it's like, oh, give me 3, give me the one with the potato salad, give me one with the ham. You eat it and you go to work.
Okay.
So, by the way, every single party we have, New Year's Eve, birthday parties, we have these open face sandwiches.
Okay. As you just saw, a trip to Prague can also be a culinary experience. And if you have the time and are still hungry, I have another recommendation for you. Traditional Czech dumplings. I promise you won't regret it.
Hot, spongy, fluffy and soft. These are a must-have side dish in the Czech Republic. The yeast dumplings are a classic of Czech cuisine. Czech chefs like Tomáš Kalina and Lukáš Wegerist would have needed several thousand dumplings in just their first year of apprenticeship. The basic recipe is simple.
So the Czech dumplings, you really need the Czech flour. What else we do? Warm milk, 2 eggs, fresh yeast, salt, sugar, and the stale bread.
The bread comes later. Lukáš first mixes the other ingredients and kneads the dough to the right consistency. Then he adds the stale bread cubes.
Back in the days, that's how the recipe probably started. They used up the old bread.
The dough has to rise for about 40 minutes before it's formed into rolls and left to rise again. Then the dumplings are ready to boil. The finished dumplings are too tender to cut with a knife. In the traditional way, Lukáš uses a thread to slice the rolls.
Because if you cut it with a knife, you squeeze the dumpling and it would flatten the warm dough.
Served with goulash, duck or roast meat, the dumplings are arranged in finger-thick slices. They complement hearty dishes because they're light and fluffy, but they pack a punch. 100 grams of dumplings have 184 calories, almost 3 times as many as boiled potatoes.
Schmeckt.
Delicious.
Schmeckt sehr gut.
Tastes really, really good. And is also really filling. If I eat 4 dumplings with sauce, I'm full.
Prague's time-honoured coffee houses also serve a sweet version, Czech dumplings with a fruity sweet filling.
These dumplings are one of the pillars of the food that we sell in the restaurant because it's a very traditional thing. We maintain them because historically there was a big tradition of eating dumplings in this region, because during the summer times the food would be all over the place and it was a main dish full of nutrients. It was sweet, you could get the energy from the flour and from the curd. It was the cheapest thing to eat.
The Czech government even awards a certificate to restaurants of national cuisine. Those serving high-quality traditional dishes like Czech dumplings can receive the Czech Specials Award.
You may have heard of the writer Franz Kafka, perhaps even more famous than the Charles Bridge. He's one of Prague's most important claims to fame. You'll run into him all around his hometown, on postcards, in souvenir shops, or as a modern sculpture.
I don't know if you can see the layers actually are moving. You know, not now, unfortunately, but in special, like every whole hour, it's just moving, and there are different programs. So it goes like a spiral, it goes zigzag, different programs. And because the most famous piece written by Franz Kafka is Verwandlung, Metamorphosis.
Yeah.
So the author of the sculpture called it metamorphosis, as changing metals. This one in Prague is called K, apparently like Kafka and like Joseph K, which is one of the characters from his novel.
Since 2005, there's been a museum in the city dedicated entirely to Kafka. The man who'd one day become one of Prague's most well-known authors belonged to the city's German-speaking minority. But fame only came after his untimely death at 40 years of age. During his lifetime, he worked at an insurance company.
Who was Franz Kafka?
Franz Kafka, when I'm meeting people in Prague, I'm saying Prague is so beautiful because there were Czechs, Germans and Jews living together. And Franz Kafka is actually a really good example of this cooperation or co-living because he was a Czech, Jewish, German. And by the way, he was an author.
By the way, he was an author?
By the way, he's a worldwide famous author, definitely one of the most famous ones we have. Definitely, I think Franz Kafka was really interesting personality. That's what I do agree.
What do we know about him as a person? Because this is dedicated to his time before he even was a writer.
Actually, it's interesting because all his life is somehow mainly connected with Prague. You know, so he really loved it, and he said like he would never leave it unless they would burn it from both ends. You know, so he really loved Prague.
Kafka's work explores existential anxiety and the absurdity of the mundane. In English, that even inspired a new adjective. The word Kafkaesque is used to describe something bizarrely complex or nightmarishly illogical. By the afternoon, the Charles Bridge is indeed pretty crowded, despite the unfavorable weather, but apparently still no comparison to the time before the pandemic. Back then, Prague was overflowing with tourists.
Prague was having a bit of a problem before the pandemic with over-tourism.
Definitely.
So how big of a problem is it than right now.
We're slightly getting to the high numbers, but as I said before, we getting in 2019 we had like 8 million people coming to Prague, and now they say we are getting to like 40% of that.
As a tour guide, you of course want people coming to your city, right? Definitely. So what's problematic about too many people coming, or that amount of people?
It is through the atmosphere. You know, you see all these posters like the Prague Castle or Charles Bridge, like no people really like this romantic atmosphere. The over-tourism really kills the atmosphere and actually even destroys that thing, because imagine there's like tons of people coming, so it really destroys the static as well. You know, so.
How can it be managed though? Because this is a beautiful city, and you've done like great work showing it to me.
Thank you.
But how can you keep people out?
Honestly, I think there's because we have the inner city, but we have as well so many beautiful districts all around the main city. I mean the main center. So we have like districts which were really industrial, like Holešovice, Karlín, Žižkov. Then we have really posh areas like Bubenec or Vinohrady. So there's so many things to explore just in a wider city center. So what I think is the solution is just to a little bit direct the people out of the city center and to explore with them these beautiful areas.
Thank you so much for sharing your city with me.
It was
a pleasure meeting you.
And
yeah.
Enjoy yourself.
We've got some hot tips for your bucket list. Romantic corner, check. Hotspot for foodies, check. And some great cultural memorials to boot. DW Travel, off we go.
If you happen to visit Prague on a rainy day, I have another recommendation for you. Take a little spin on the Vltava. I'm joined by Sonia. She's a Prague native and has worked as a guide in her hometown for the past 15 years.
How important is the river for the people of Prague?
Wow, the most important, because it starts here in southern Bohemia and it ends in Hamburg.
Yeah.
So which means it was a river, it was a trade, it was a motorway actually to bring the products to Prague. It's very interesting because the Prague Castle is on the other side of the river and the market
is on that side.
Here.
Yeah.
Because the top hill, it's not possible to build there a market because you want to not have a hilly area.
Yeah.
So which means the market, the flat was actually here. So they need to build a market here, and you have to have the connection in between the castle and the market.
So the Charles Bridge was already an important nexus back then.
The bridge was built with no statues on. There was a kind of like Regensburg Bridge, but the statues were added in the 17th century, and it's Catholic propaganda. We were not Catholics, we were reformers here, so which means we lost the war. What to do with us? You have to be Catholic. So that's the place here, that's the statues. And you don't need to go to a church because every single statue is a patron and a saint, and you can pray to it.
All right. Did people come to pray at the bridge?
Yes. We have the John of Nepomuk on the bridge, and he was the confessor. So the people were confessing to the statue because they said he is the right one, and the priests are not the right one because they are not behaving according to the Bible. So they were coming to confess to the statue of John of Nepomuk rather than going to the church.
Sonia wants to show me a different part of Prague, beyond the old town. A neighborhood where the actual locals live and tourists are still a bit of a rarity. We're off to Holešovice, the hip part of town. Fancy Wilhelminian buildings in a district that grew during the industrialization. This is where Sonia lives. She takes me to her favorite cafe, Cukrarna Alchimista.
I hope you like it.
Are you kidding me?
It's one of my favorite coffee here.
It's so unexpected.
I know. That's like something like a small paradise garden.
It's like a little paradise, exactly.
So there are a lot of different plants, and you can be sitting here always. And the coffee is very good. They are making everything homemade and really good one.
Good coffee. You don't have to tell me twice. Sonia explains that only 20 years ago, Holešovice was a gray and dull part of town that has seen a lot of change in the past years.
So you chose to live here. What is it you appreciate about Holešovice?
The life, the freedom, the relax, no rush. Everything what I need for my living is here. I don't need to, as I mentioned before, I don't need to go to the city center. And the prices lower than the touristic center. Therefore, we do not like to dine somewhere in the city center because the prices are here for us better. And you see there is a pub there, bakery there, there is another restaurant, there is a tea room here. You can choose what you like.
You have everything you need.
Exactly. So if you like to meet Czech people, come here and enjoy living with us because we are quite a very heart-opening people and we like to speak with the foreigners.
Finally, Sonia takes me back to the old town. Here too, you can find corners that are not overrun. Before we finally try some of the famous Czech beer, she wants to show me something. The bar she has taken me to was built on the remnants of one of the oldest houses in Prague.
Looks like it must have been a pretty lavish house or a palace even for the time, right?
This is the name of the house is at Kunstad. The Kunstad, there was a really very famous rich family and one of our kings came from the family.
Okay.
So, which means we are speaking about the money here, the real money. But that's the family didn't live here. That was for the soldiers.
Okay.
The soldiers live here to protect the family. The family live on, that's the first floor. So which means here they have to really help and protect the family in the case of an attack.
On the first floor today, the pub U Kunstatu, where you can choose between 100 different kinds of beer. Where better to learn about the country's favorite drink?
Na zdraví. Na zdraví. So what makes Czech beer so special?
Hops and water. We have a very special hops, and they've been here, and they give the beer bitterness. And this is very special beer. I mean, hops.
Yeah.
The water is also very special. So if you have the hops, all the procedure, and you do it somewhere else, the water is different and will not be tasting the same way.
What is it about the water? Is it very soft? Is it
a combination of minerals?
Okay.
So the combination of minerals makes the best lager.
All right. And I heard that in the Czech Republic, there's more per capita consumption of beer than anywhere in the world.
We beat up you. We beat up Britain and Australian too, yeah. But I think it's thanks to you guys, because you are coming here to drink beer, therefore the rate is a little bit higher.
So it's not the Czechs, it's the Germans that come here and drink all your beer. Cheers to that.
Yeah.
I mean, who can blame them?
Night has fallen and time has come to bid Prague farewell. Back where it all started, on Charles Bridge. And even if this time I'm not entirely by myself, the mass tourism that plagued the city before the pandemic has not returned the way many feared. And hey, who can blame people for being attracted to this beauty? It's a perfect blend of history and modernity with so much to offer, especially off the beaten path.
That's it. My day in Prague is already over. There is, of course, a lot more to see and discover, but I still hope you enjoyed to get a little taste of the Czech capital. Time now for me to say goodbye, or better yet, na shledanou.